Hey humans, 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 here with another Create video. Today I'm gonna be showing you all how minecarts work with Create, and how to make basic farms with them. So let's get to it. The first question to ask yourself is, why do we want, or need, a minecart contraption? And to answer that I want to explain, and demonstrate few basic notions. To begin we need to assemble a minecart contraption, for that we use the cart assembler. The way it works is very simple, we place the cart underneath, any kind of cart works, but ideally we want a cart with furnace, or a simple cart. Then we start placing our contraption above the cart assembler. I will explain more in detail of how to assemble it later on, but now if we power the assembler, we're making the cart become an entity. The fact that it's an entity is relevant, it means if an explosion happens, or the cart breaks for any reason, the entire contraption will drop down as an item, and in the same way, making use of the wrench we can pick it up as a whole. Just like so. Now if we place our contraption in a powered rail, it will go on its own, and as you might notice, whatever machines you attach to the cart, it's going to work in every single block the cart travels to. Either the machines will work as fast as the cart, or the cart will be forced to slow down, for example if it's trying to break blocks with drills or saws. We also have 3 different settings on the assembler. By default the contraption will always move forward. This means if the cart turns around because of the direction of the rails, the contraption will move with it. The second option is the same, but when the cart is going through a curve, the machines will stop working. In the context of a minecart contraption, they are called the actors. I just prefer to use machines because it sounds more easy to understand to me. And the last option is to lock the contraption in place, used when there is no curves, or the farm doesn't have different angles to work with. This one might be one of the most used settings for most farms, because without it the contraption is constantly going to face forward, and can mess up everything. As you can see here, the cart assembler can also attach and detach contraptions into a moving cart, depending if it's powered or not. This can be useful in certain situations. Those are the basics on how a minecart works. Now let's see some examples on how to use them, and why are they so important, even if you have massive power plants to work with, late into the world. One of the most used cases for minecarts is with drills. We're going to use it to dig underground to get diamonds, or any ores, and stones in general, can also be used to just build a tunnel. To start we're going to place the assembler with a normal minecart on it. Then we're going to make use of chassis to hold the entire structure in place. Chassis are basically blocks that stick together without having to use any glue for them. With this shape done, we continue with the frontal panel. You can make this as big as you want the drill to be. I'm going to make it a 10 by 5. Now we place an entire layer of deployers, and we add one extra circle around it. This is a very important detail. A minecart can go through lava and water, but this also means that the tunnel that it's going to dig out might end up crossing a lava lake, especially if we use this digger in the nether when looking for ancient debris. That's bad news for us because if we want to go back to retrieve the digger, or we want to check the walls of the tunnel for more ores, if it's covered in lava we're gonna spend more time fixing that than just digging manually. What are we doing with the problem? The solution is simple. If the deployers notice there is no block in front of the digger, it's going to place a block of our choice. In the case of the nether we want to use netherrack. If the deployer notices there is already a block in front, then nothing will happen. After that, all our drills will break the blocks, and the digger will move forward. The reason we're going to place one extra circle around it is because we want those blocks to always stay, so if we cross a lava lake, we're making a tunnel around it, and because the contraption is an entity, those deployers, or any other actors that don't interact with solid blocks will go through them without issue. With that out of the way we want to fill the back of it with plenty of barrels, chests, vaults, anything to store our items. I'm personally going to place some barrels so later on I have easy access to it in case I need it, and because I think barrels look cool. Now there is the issue of how the cart will move forward to begin with. The solution to that is also very simple. We're going to make use of 2 more deployers, powered rails, and redstone blocks, with a drill and a plow in the back. This way we're going to create a loop. Deployers will place down the redstone, then the powered rails, and once the cart goes through, we remove both and feed them back into the system. That should keep the cart going indefinitely. Next we're going to fill the filters with a redstone block in the lowest deployer, and a powered rail in the top one. This will make sure the cart moves forward. Now at the front we put the most common stone depending on where we're mining. You can use cobblestone, deep slate cobble, or in our case we're going to use netherrack to mine in the nether. Now all it's left to do is add all of the drills in the front, but make sure you leave the outer deployers without drill. Also make sure you place 1 single drill in the middle in the bottom row so the drills make room for the redstone blocks. Something I clearly forgot to do, as you can see. Make sure to put in a barrel some redstone blocks, powered rails, and the block of your choosing for the deployers. Triple check that everything is glued to the chassis, and the digger is pretty much done. You can still add many details and personalize it to your liking, as well as making it much bigger and without deployers. It will all depend on your personal needs. The digger isn't quick, but it will never stop drilling. Just need to make sure to stop it to empty the contraption every now and then so it doesn't overflow. I have also added a big lava lake to simulate the nether, and as you can see it's making a tunnel through it no problem. This is a must-have contraption for everyone, especially useful in the nether to find those ancient debris. Next we're going to make a crop farm. In my opinion, this is an amazing use for a minecart contraption. Also it's a good opportunity to show how good 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 really is, because this mod doesn't only allow us to make great farms. It also helps to make them look great. So let's build a fun-looking garden first. Okay humans, this is what I came up with. It's very simple but it looks cool. It would be a nice addition to any base out there. Also keep in mind, as usual, you can make this as big as you like it. The 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 mod has a limit of 128 blocks wide, I believe it is, at least for certain things, so go as big as you like it. But anyway, let's get to building a minecart to farm this field. To stay in theme with making it look good, I thought on adding the minecart underground, also to show you all a different idea on what's possible. As I explained before, the contraption becomes an entity, and this means so long as the minecart doesn't break, most pieces of the contraption will go through blocks. The only exception to this rule if an actor should interact with said block, for example a mechanical saw against a log, it will try to break it. With this in mind, if we place the entire setup underground, we can have just the harvesters showing up. I decided to raise the minecart in this middle part where the fence is. So to begin, let's go left and get few harvesters to farm the sugarcane. We don't really need it in both sides, so just the frontal one should do. Now to the right side we have pumpkins and melons. For those we need mechanical saws. I'm pretty sure if a pumpkin grows when the contraption is going back, it's gonna get stuck. Not sure if that ever got changed, but just in case we're going to place mechanical saws in both sides. All it's left to do now is place the harvesters for the rest of crops. Thankfully with 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬, harvesters replant the seeds, so there is no need for deployers in here. To finish it off we're going to place a few barrels here and there, and of course an item interface to remove the crops. As always, make sure that everything is properly glued to the chassis. I always double and triple check, and still miss it sometimes. Like before, it's going to use the movement from the powered rails to work, so let's place it down and see if we did it right. I also took the liberty to add a little dock for the contraption. I thought it would be a great addition, but as you can see it's working well, and it's looking great. The last contraption we're going to do today is the most simple one, and also the best use for minecarts, and a must-have in any base. If you ever had any shortage of wood in your life, well look no further. I'm going to show you the most simple way of making thousands and thousands of logs per hour. First we need to choose what tree we want to grow, and if we're talking by raw numbers, obviously spruce is the best choice. So let's start by placing down a grid of 2 by 2 squares, with a gap in between. You might be thinking, but Batsy, deployers will place down saplings in every block and 2x2 trees won't grow. You are absolutely correct, human, you are so smart. That's why we're leaving a gap in between them. We're going to place stone in those gaps, so the deployers can't place saplings outside of the designed areas. This is something we can do in any pattern we want to grow single trees, to grow mangrove or anything. With the field out of the way, now let's make this contraption. As usual, we start with the minecart, and we make sure the assembler is set to lock rotation. Now let's place the chassis that will support the mechanical saws at the bottom, and just like with the pumpkins, we're gonna need to place them on both sides, otherwise if a tree grows up, it's going to get stuck. Next we place another row of chassis above, and here we want to place down all the deployers. This will make sure that when we chop down a tree, a new one gets planted in its place. Of course we also want some barrels here and there, and the item interface to remove all the wood and store it in our vaults. As usual, make sure everything is properly glued up into the chassis, and in case you're using chassis in various directions, you also need to glue those together. To finish off, make sure you set your deployers with the sapling you want to use for your farm. As you can see, I have placed down the rail, and waited for everything to grow to make a demonstration, so let's turn it on and see how well it does. This farm is something I always do in my worlds, and it's just absurd how much wood it makes for the little effort. And that is all for today. Thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. I hope everything I explained was useful, and that now you have a better understanding of some of the things you can do with minecarts, because the possibilities are endless. I'll leave a blueprint with those 3 contraptions in the description below in case you want them, but I encourage to make them bigger and better. Don't forget to subscribe. If you aren't already, feel free to leave a comment with any doubts, or possible ideas for future videos, and thank you so much for watching. Until the next time.